All right, we are back with another podcast. We have a very special podcast today. We will be breaking down "Can't Hurt Me" by David Goggins, which I've said on another podcast, but I was telling Daves to read this for a long time because I first read this book in June of 2020. So that was right during the pandemic, right when it hit. That's when I got into reading, and it completely shifted my mindset. I had a paradigm shift. It taught me I can work a lot harder, and that this man is a beast. And another we'll go into the takeaways, but yeah, I had a huge paradigm shift, and then finally, Davis read it. So we're gonna break down what we learned, the story, and what you can take into your everyday life from this book. And I can't recommend it enough to read this book because it will help you no matter what you're doing. But yeah, we'll start. What do you think of the book, Davis?
I thought it was absolutely awesome. Brennan has been asking me to read this book for about a year and a half now. So he'd say, oh, it's going to change how you think about the world. It's just going to give you a whole new perspective. And I couldn't agree more after reading it. David Goggins, he starts out as a person who's had a tough upbringing, and eventually he just sets his mind that he's going to hit his goals. And in the course of probably about 20 years of his life, he becomes an elite special operations warrior, I believe in both the Air Force and as a Navy SEAL.
And he was an Army Ranger.
Oh, and an Army Ranger. So 3 major branches right there, elite units. And he also becomes a very good, I'd say world-class endurance athlete as well.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest thing that got me to read it as I started doing a couple of the endurance events. And I mean, the legacy that he will have is just unbelievable. What he's been able to accomplish is...
Yeah, and the impact he has on people. Because another thing he brings up in the book is a lot of people... I think the first time I saw David Goggins was on Joe Rogan's podcast. And if you've ever seen the podcast, David Goggins, like yelling, he's a very tough dude. But in the book, he breaks down what his childhood was like, what Davis was saying, where he wasn't always that guy. I mean, he talks on the podcast a lot how he was really overweight, and you don't really understand his journey until you read it, and you see this like superhuman of an individual. But the journey, like Dave said, took 20 years, and it was just step by step by step. Where I mean, one story that I remember from the book is when he first decided that he was going to lose weight. He went out for a run and only ran a quarter of a mile, so 1 lap around the track, and that's all he could do. But he just kept on doing it, kept on building off of it. But it just shows everyone's got to start somewhere.
Yes. Yeah, as Brennan's saying, he goes from someone who's 300 pounds, overweight, can barely run, to an elite level athlete, probably like 6'1", 200 pounds, can literally run 100 miles weekend after weekend in races.
Yeah.
And it's just mind-boggling.
It's crazy. So I can't recommend that enough. But we'll break down our big takeaways. So this is what I have. So the first one is callous your mind. So he says that a lot throughout his book. And what this means is do at least one thing a day or multiple things a day, but do things that make you uncomfortable, because doing these tasks will make you mentally stronger and get you ready to take on anything life throws at you. So this could be running, working out. He likes working out because it toughens him up, toughens your mind mentally and physically, but doing anything hard, even making a phone call that you don't want to make. Once you do that, you become a little more courageous, you callous your mind a little bit, and the next time you have to make a similar phone call, it's not as hard. So just doing things that make you uncomfortable so that it makes you a better person and it makes you just stronger to take on life. I guess we'll just go back and forth, and then you can say something that you got.
Yes, I thought Brennan's point that he brought up was really interesting, because David Goggins would always say he's training for life. He's not training for a workout to be able to hit some number on the weights or run a certain distance at a certain time. He's trying to prepare himself to be the best he can be every single day.
Yeah.
And that really translated into his process, because at the end of the day, you can see he has these amazing accomplishments. But in the book, he talks about what it took in order to fit these workouts in. So the best example that I could find in the book was when he's training, I believe, for his first ultra marathon. He goes and he'll run 15 miles to work in the morning. He'll wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock, run 15 miles to work a full day. He was in the Navy at the time as a Navy SEAL, so I imagine he's got an extremely busy day. And then after, he'd run 15 miles home. Not to mention, during his lunch break, he also did an hour-long workout. So, I mean, that's probably 7 hours of working out on top of a full-time job.
Yeah.
And he gave another example in the story where one time he had to work 20 hours. At the end of those 20 hours, he worked out for an hour and then slept for 3. So it just really shows if you really set your mind to something, there's no reason that you can't fit a workout in to stay healthy during the course of a workday. Because I mean, those are extreme examples, but he also says it's not just me doing this. There are other examples. So throughout the book, he'll talk about his friends who are in different industries and how they accomplish their goals.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really puts into perspective. Something else I have is I can work a lot harder, just because what David said. I mean, he is an extreme example, but there are so many examples of people getting it done, even though it's tough. Like they're fitting in their schedule. I don't know if does he bring up anything about like doctors and nurses? I can't remember.
Not too much, I would say. I remember he was talking about one person who I think was working on Wall Street, and they'd work crazy hours, but on top of working out, they also had plenty of time to spend with their family as well. Because he always talks at the points in the book when he's married, he always has time to see his wife.
Yeah, crazy. And then I guess to add on to that, progress is slow, and you just chip away at each day to get those little victories. And when you look back 20 years, you're like, holy cow, I really came a long way. Because there's a point in the book where he was kind of put on the sideline because he didn't stretch, and his body was just collapsing in on him, and no one knew what was wrong with him. And I think there was a point where he's just sitting in his bed, just reflecting on everything that he's done, and it just shows like, yeah, in the moment it could be tough and it doesn't seem like you're making a lot of progress, but if you keep on being consistent and doing the right things, controlling the controllables, it's gonna pay off in the end. It's like the slow and steady wins the race.
I agree. Yes, and throughout the book, he's always going through pain, suffering, whether it's a tough childhood upbringing or doing some type of workout. He always talks about sometimes you just need a second wind. When you feel like you've had enough, you can't go any farther, just give it another minute, and you might get a second wind to carry you through. And Brennan talked about another one of his sayings, the cookie jar.
Yeah.
He's saying if you put all the little victories in a cookie jar, it adds up. And by the end of it, you've got a full cookie jar. So when you have nothing left, no energy, you reach into the cookie jar, you eat a cookie, you say, I can do this, and it'll power you through. I thought those were really powerful because like you're saying, everyone has the days when they're not on, and you need something to carry you through.
Yeah, what Deus means by the cookie jar too, it's like a mental cookie jar. Mm-hmm. So it's in your head of all the little victories, and he brings it up when he's doing these long runs or in hard training, and he's like, oh, I did that, I can do this. And it just, I think he talks about it releases chemicals in your body that actually help you. But yeah, it's just about having all the little victories in your head, so when you're in a tough time, you can dig through it. Just putting your mind in a different spot too, and giving you a little bit of extra motivation to get it done.
Yeah, just the way he looks at the world, it was very unique.
Yeah, another thing that stood out to me is fatigue makes cowards out of all of us, which I resonated with that a lot because I ran high school cross country. I related a lot from this book to my time running cross country in high school, because that was very mentally straining to me back in the day, where in order to run a good race, I would have to put my body in a state where it was telling me to quit. Like, because I didn't prepare a lot, which is another thing David Goggins talks about, is preparation is key. But back in high school, I did not run the miles. But even if you're nasty, it's going to hurt. I just related a lot to that, is that I remember some races where I'd be 2 miles in a 3 mile race, and my body would be saying, quit. Like, you're tired, slow down. And there was a few times where I was able to power through it. But then towards the end of my career, when I was just so mentally fatigued, there were some races where I gave into it. But I realized you learn from it, that's life, but fatigue does make cowards out of all of us if you let it. And you just gotta fight back. It's crazy. That resonated with me hard.
That's awesome. And I would just second that once again, because sometimes David Goggins trained really hard. Other times he powered through, similar to what you were doing. He ran 100 miles without any training.
Yeah, that's
so
crazy.
I guess it shows what the human mind can do if it really has to. And I would say, as much as we talk about maybe the physical accomplishments that David Goggins has, the mindset was, I'd say, the most eye-opening. How he looks at it every single day. He was going to do what he has to do in order to hit his goals.
Yeah. Because I ended up writing a thesis paper my senior year. The whole original idea was mindset, where I was saying, oh, you can change everything based on your mindset. Maybe you can't change everything, but this book it's crazy. But just a mindset shift and consistent action can lead you to.
Yeah, because he does all these endurance events, all his physical activity with a hole in his heart for most of the time, which is also mind-boggling. So if David Goggins is out there doing these things with basically half the oxygen supply he needs.
Yeah, you can suffer a little. Because Davis brought up his first ultra race. Davis can correct me if I'm wrong because I read the book a little bit ago. It was around a 1-mile track.
Yes.
So it's as many laps as you could in 24 hours. And he didn't, like David said, he didn't train. And he just did not pace himself. And it got to the point where he had to walk. He was, I believe, peeing blood. Like he was pretty much killing himself
To finish that race.
to finish the race. And then he said, though, after that race, he was sitting in the tub, like so wrecked from it. Like his body was so destroyed. And he was just saying that was one of the happiest moments of my life because it showed how far he could go past what his mind was telling him to do. But he pretty much almost killed himself in the process, but he got it done.
Yeah, no matter what it took, it was unbelievable. I think, Brennan, you had one point that you really want to bring up as well about falling back to the lowest level of your training, which I remember I picked up on as well.
Yeah, because I've also read a bunch of military books, and it's just a concept that's in a lot of them, where it says that when things aren't going your way, so a lot of times in the military books they say if you're getting into a firefight, the plan doesn't go according to how it was planned out, that you fall to the level of your training. So you want to make sure that level is elite, because when you're going bad, like something happens, let's say you get tired on an ultra race or in battle, somebody gets shot and now the whole command shift, the whole plan's gone. You just have to fall back to that level that's automatic, and you just got to hope that level where it's automatic, where you don't really have to think too much and strain too much, is higher than your opponents or just at an elite level. So it's train like you play. So when things don't go your way, you can just fall back on that training that you've just been drilling consistently and help you achieve whatever goal you're trying to. Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah, it's just an awesome book.
Yeah, lead by example and just get after it every single day. Hold yourself accountable. And running's actually good for you, not bad. It's both good physically and mentally.
Probably the best type of exercise out there.
Agreed.
Well, I've got to give a big thank you to Brennan for reading this book, getting me to read it, because it truly is motivational, true inspiration right there. It truly is just amazing. You can't say it enough. I've got to say, Brennan's also inspiring me with how much reading he's doing. I mean, he's probably reading about a book a month now.
Trying to, yeah.
He's sharing a lot of great insights that I'm benefiting from as well. So I finally took accountability. That was only the second book that I've read this year. So I'm going to try to make more time so we can do more book reviews. And if not, we've got to get Brennan out there just doing his own reviews.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, David, just trying to learn as much. Because I love saying quotes now, but I heard another quote from Harry Truman. Allegedly said this. I'm not sure if he did, but I believe it goes like all leaders are readers, but not all readers are leaders.
Yeah.
So it's just saying that you can only gain so much experience and insight from experience. So a lot of these great leaders pull from other people's stories to gain that knowledge so then they can implement it. I heard something also, Alexander the Great, where somebody said, how can you be this powerful at whatever age he was? And he's like, I've lived 1,000 lives, because he read about 1,000 other people.
Wow.
Compared to just experiencing your own life, you can just gain so much knowledge from books. I hated reading, but now it's amazing.
You do it all the time.
I try to, yeah. But that's all I got. Anything else you want to add, Davis?
No, I'd say it's just all about positive transformations. Whether it's David Goggins going out and transforming himself physically, or Brennan transforming his perspective with some reading.
Or Davis transforming his social media.
Oh, yeah, getting involved there as well. Yeah, because that was another thing I didn't used to do. But we just went out there and started sharing our experiences with the world.
Yep. Well, we'll see you at the next one.
Let's go.